Greetings and thank you for joining us again here at Saint TV, Gnosis Unveiled series. Today we're going to talk about the topography that is found in Egypt that points to a very profound discovery and understanding that there is an ancient roadmap home that's been memorialized in stone. This entire series defines each of the components that comprise the evidence that this is in fact a reality, echoing the lost knowledge and wisdom of the ancients as the way of the eternals, the path to your divine consciousness. Here we see the Sphinx in the 1930s when they began to uncover it. And when they got down to the bottom of the pause, there's a plateau or a surface that has an entrance on the south side or the left side of the Sphinx, which has 6 steps that descends into an underground temple and a myriad of tunnels. And while this story was released in the newspapers, it was only featured once, and then it was ordered that a blackout of this information would occur. So this is not the only time the Sphinx has been uncovered from sand. In the 18th dynasty, we see evidence that Tutmosis the Fourth uncovered the Sphinx, and this became a project that continued into latter years because it was obvious that there was a larger map and understanding, and so the mystery schools were opened again because of the discovery of the Hall of Records and the evidence that the way to Ascension was being taught in this ancient mystery school. And because this was being revised at that time, they built a special temple in commemoration of this knowledge and understanding. It was built by the vizier Amenhotep, son of Hapu, who is a reincarnation of Imhotep, and there is a stela, a writing in stone that talks about that this was indeed the same soul. And the king Amenhotep III was the king at the time that the temple was built, and he, by the way, was a reincarnation or part of the oversoul of Serapis Bey. It's interesting that both of these men had the title name of Amenhotep, which means Prince of Peace. So something very interesting was happening at this time, and we have it also memorialized in stone. There'll be many, many things that we see tell a greater story as we proceed through this series. It'll actually become rather indelible. So still standing here, we have a arrow that travels along the secant line, which bisects this square as part of a greater unfurling of the golden mean rectangle and the phi ratio of the Fibonacci sequence, which all points back to the 0 location here, the 0 point, and we'll unravel that story a little bit more in other sessions as the Orion code. So what we have here is a line that has a temple built on it right here, and we're going to take a look at that in this scene here. In fact, we're also going to notice that right here is a structure. We just saw it. We're going to look at it a little closer. This structure right here, actually here's a zoom in on it, is right on the line, which also passes right through the Sphinx and points to a location, the entrance of the Hall of Records, which is the location that this building is erected upon. Actually, the Hall of Records, there's stories about it being back here that I gathered from people that have been going to Egypt for many, many years. This temple is also in the phi ratio, or the golden mean rectangle proportions. And so here's just another view of how, yeah, you can begin to see that there's the entrance. See, here's another air vent right here, and this is the entrance that has been walled over, and they call it an air vent, but they're trying to hide the truth. And so it's hard to deny that this topography exists when you have this curved line passing right through the tops of the Great Pyramids, and this fairly obvious temple that's constructed at a very unusual orientation, because everything in Egypt is always built squared with north and south, like this here. This is north, pardon me, this is south traveling this way. The Sphinx is looking east, and this way is west, so the orientation is always there. So to have this strange orientation with the secant line passing right through this doorway is obviously a profound statement. And the fact that it passes right through here, which when we zoom in on that, you can see the steps going down. In fact, for a long time they wouldn't let any aerial photographs be taken of this area for fear of this being revealed. And as you can see, the size of a human here in the front paw, and with the size of the so-called air vent, it'd be very difficult to get up there, and plus it's guarded. Now, looking again at the unusual phi line temple, it was pretty much in shambles when they reconstructed it, and that reconstruction, there was enough there so that they knew, and the reconstruction reveals that encoded within these steps is a message. There's 11 steps on this side and 11 steps on that side for 22, and then there's 9 steps on the back side for completion. So we see this echoing of this numerological story that continues to be expounded upon throughout this series as a strong indication that frequency, the ascension of consciousness, the mystery schools, the super science, everything about the Ancient of Days in this place tells a story that we are much more than we realize, and we could be initiated through awareness into this consciousness. Here you have Serapis Bey at the doorway of the tunnel, and the neophyte who's going to go through his final step in initiation in the Great Pyramid into his divine consciousness. And again, the Sphinx was called Sepset Ankh, which means the living image of the Eternals. And it's also interesting to note that no longer today does this statue stand here. They found it on the ground, but this was a statue of Tutmosis IV who uncovered this, and there's a stela in front of it that still remains today that talks about the discovery. So this is the lost story, the greatest story never told, that's becoming the new story. of what's available for us. And so part of what's encoded in this topography or map is the understanding that in picture format, it tells the story that two become one, because what you have here is you have this spiral or curve, which represents the feminine or Christ consciousness, and then you have the straight line, which represents the masculine. Both of these lines end up at the 0 point, and they start. I was able to create this map by using scale and ratio and everything, and put a big star map up on the wall, and an original map that I drew, which we don't have pictured here right now, that showed that these unfurlings passed right through, the feminine one passed right through the planet or constellation called Sirius, a constellation in the Egyptian story, it represented the Anubis, and it was called Sept, which meant 7. And so that frequency, or everything that related to what this curve meant, which was 11, and this is echoed, literally everywhere, that tells this story that 11's all about feelings and emotions and healing and the light, and then of course you have some of the primary feminine goddesses' names adding up to 11. Neith is the mother goddess. Everything was created from her in the cosmic web. And then telling the story a little further, we have the other side of the coin, the masculine energy coming in from the Palladian system, which in the Book of the Dead, the name for the Palladian system is Nekek, which adds up to 8, which is a very masculine number. And in the middle of this story depicts the mother as the cow, and then also the Orion constellation which is talked about in the Book of the Dead as Sahu, which adds up to 13, by the way, which is very telling, and it represents the Oversoul. So when it talks about in the Book of the Dead, in the pyramid text, that Osiris becomes Orion, it's referring to the process of ascension, and him and all of us as an opportunity to return to our throne in the sky, or our oversoul consciousness. So echoed here is the two becoming one. So the other side of the coin is mind, which adds up to 22, master, which adds up to 22, teacher adds up to 22. There's a whole bunch of ones that couldn't fit here that actually describe the cosmic consciousness side of the coin. And so 11 plus 22 equals 33, which represents the divine consciousness, or the awareness, and coming online with the oversoul. And here we have more information conveyed that priest adds up to 33, insight adds up to 33. Some of the names from the ancient Gnostic scriptures and other Egyptian stories add up to 33. Akhmath is the divine wisdom of the mother. And then, even more startling than the way that all this is depicted, is some of the ancient names for the master teachers or keepers of hidden wisdom add up to 1122 also. You can see here Master Builder as the feminine, rather the masculine side of the coin, is Kent Amahet, which is 1122, and then Aset Hetet is 1122. And isn't it interesting, immortal, divine, perfect human being as a phrase adds up to 33. So, again, memorialized in stone is the way of the Eternals. And there's much to this uh, picture that describes an event horizon. It's a story that continues to be told around the zodiac. But what's interesting to realize is that as we've begun to analyze throughout this series is this story of the way of the Eternals has been echoed in the astrotheology and has been echoed through numerous, I believe the number is 24, figures that have come as spiritual leaders that have the same story as Jesus. Born on December 25th, died on March 22nd, rose again 3 days later. And all the milestones along that story have relevance to astrological themes or locations. And here is a simple picture of Gemini, the constellation just behind Orion, the two becoming one, the twins. And there's much about the twins that'll be revealed through this series also, which will be rather startling for some. But again, it's a picture of who we are laid out in ways that ensured that we wouldn't lose the path, that we wouldn't lose the understanding, that we have the ability to become Orion in the sky. We come from the stars, we'll return to the stars. We're made at the stars. This is all about energy, frequency, and consciousness. And that's it for this short 5-line temple presentation. I hope you enjoyed it.